Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video, and the insanity with the graphics card prices continue. As noted on video cards, RTX 5090s are going towards $4,000. Yes, RTX 5090 pricing is already hitting a record high for the year. The 2000 MSRP can only be found on NVIDIA's official store for the Founders Edition, and you are seeing listings as high as $4,000, $3,000 plus at Newegg as well. You're seeing $3,500 listings, etc., etc. To be honest, if you are buying a 5090 for the sole prospect of gaming, I personally think you are an absolute sucker. I believe 5090s and higher end hardware, generally speaking, are not worth it. But especially at this egregious price point, doubly so, it's not worth it. Now, for everybody, how you assess value is, subjective. It's up to you to assess value on how something can positively impact your life. If $3,000 is absolutely innocuous to you and you don't care, like for a lot of people, they make a lot of money and $3,000 is innocuous. For most people, that is not going to be the case, and that is a lot of money to spend on a video card. It is absolutely not worth it. And even before price increases, guys, more than ever, I think higher end video cards and higher end GPUs have not been worth it. I think it's always been kind of comical, and buying a 90 series GPU or the absolute top of the line where people are spending, $1,500 on a GPU. 90 series GPUs, obviously back in the day, like the 5090, for example, were way cheaper, but you usually bought it as a flex. And what I notice about a lot of people that buy their high-end hardware, they've got disposable income. You generally get the PC, you utilize it to play games at like higher resolutions and higher frame rates for a little bit, and then you realize the game's still the game, and you're moving on with your life. The thing about video cards is there is absolutely law of diminishing returns that is in play. And generally speaking, most people feel like the sweet spot when it comes to NVIDIA GPUs is like the 70 series. 70 or 60 series, that's where you're really cooking. Sometimes the 80 series will very much be worth it, but the 70 series GPUs has always been the kind of point where most people want to get it there. I remember GPUs like the GTX 970, the 1070 being incredibly popular GPUs, the RTX 2070, so on and so forth, because that is kind of that sweet spot, and you really always want to land at that sweet spot. However, even more so than ever, you guys, buying these high-end GPUs is so nonsensical because there are so few games that are optimized for these GPUs, and even if they are well optimized, that they're going to take advantage of them whatsoever unless you're playing at crazy resolutions and you're trying to get like the most ridiculous frame rates possible. Now, obviously, with the rising of prices, there's going to be a trickle-down effect, and the trickle-down effect is what we're scared of. We are scared of the 70 series GPUs going up in price. We are scared of, the 80 series GPUs going up in price. Let's actually just look up RTX 5070s and see how much they're going for. The $550 range, $525 over on eBay if you're looking for a pre-owned GPU, which I still think is somewhat acceptable for a price point like that. Let's actually pull up the 5070 on Newegg. And yeah, the 5070, you can get the Asus Prime RTX 5070 for $550, which, that is super expensive. Let's not get it twisted. How long has the RTX 5070 been out, and it's still going for that price point? That is still a hefty price point to pay, but, 550 sounds about right. The 5070, by the way, came out in March of this year, so it's not like it's been a ton of time, but 550 is a very, very expensive price point to pay. Back in the day, you could say, hey, the 970, I want to say we were paying, what, 380, 400, around that range? I might be off on that. It might have been less. It might have been 330. But obviously, things fluctuate. The dollar value changes and so on and so forth. But the 70 series GPU and the 80 series GPUs are really going to be the sweet spot as far as the average consumer. But you're already seeing a lot of 5070 listings here going for even more than that. The 5070 Ti is well over $800 with a lot of these listings. And that's a little crazy. That's very, very crazy as far as, for most people, an $800 GPU is a lot of money, especially with, costs of other things going exponentially higher. These are just such expensive GPUs, but let me go back to what I mentioned in the previous video where we initially talked about these price points. Beyond the 5090 being for, you know, people that are just ballers and have disposable income to a big extent, I don't think anybody should be buying a 5090 that is trying to be financially responsible. I really just don't think that should be the case, especially if it's just for like gaming and whatnot. The necessity of you buying something like the 5070, I feel like, is lesser than ever as well. I just don't think these GPUs are very much worth it for for two factors. First of all, the games that are coming out these days, they're running on lower end hardware. They're not pushing this hardware to the absolute limit. You know, there are games that come out every now and again that do push hardware, but guess what? 50% of the time, those games are just garbage on PC. Spider-Man 2, Mafia the Old Country, Metal Gear Solid, Delta Snake, your Borderlands 4, I can go on, and over time, yes, they get more and more optimized, whatever, but you're talking about those games just being unoptimized messes that it's one thing when a game runs poorly on a $500 PlayStation 5. It stings so much more when you drop $1,500 on a PC or $1,200 on a PC, and it's running poorly or stuttering or crashing all over the place. I just feel like it stings so much more, and the value of these GPUs, these higher-end GPUs, and this is the point I'm trying to illustrate, the value of these higher-end GPUs in terms of what they are going to offer for the majority of people in their life, I don't believe has ever been lower, because the options in gaming are so much more vast than ever before. Look at the slate of games coming out or have come out recently and assess, you know, look at those games, which one of them are games that if you don't play, it is dramatically impacting your gaming life. Are there that many games that, only top-of-the-line PCs can run, or higher-end PCs? Not even top-of-the-line, like mid to higher-end PCs can run. There aren't a ton of them, and even if there are so many options of high-quality games that are running on older hardware, that are playing well, and even older games, like, at this point, I am really not of the mindset of, I need games to look the absolute best or run the absolute best. As long as it's playable, bro, we're good. You know, for 2025, games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, that's a game that I certainly would want to play. If I didn't have a PlayStation 5 and I was only playing on PC, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is one of the more intensive games that I would want to play. Not the best optimized game in the world, but let's actually pull up the system requirements for that game, because even that game, like, the minimum requirement is an RTX 2060 and recommended is an RTX 2070. It's not like a 5070 is absolutely necessarily, but if you do have a GTX 1060 and now you're locked out of upgrading and you can't play a Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, yeah, to me that would sting a little bit. That's one of those games that I look at and not being able to play that game and being gated out because I have a 1060 or something like that, and now the price points are so crazy that it's not viable for me to buy a new PC. Yeah, that would suck. At the end of the day, even if you can't play Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, like, there are other games that you can play even on a 1060, like Hollow Knight Silksong, Hades 2, these are some of the biggest games that have come out, and, you know, there are certainly intensive games that are dropping. A lot of the PlayStation titles, although shout out to Stellar Blade for running really well. Death Stranding 2 is going to come out, and that might be a game a lot of people want to play, and you might need higher-end hardware to an extent to play that game. But what I am arguing is that the options have never been greater for gaming on a wide array of different hardware, and I think it really does come down to each individual person on whether or not they want to play a lot of these games. But again, it is a 50-50 crapshoot a lot of the times with these higher-end games that are running on Unreal Engine 5 and they come out garbage on PC. I'm not kidding you guys, the amount of times Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater crashed on me on my PC was so crazy, and that's sometimes you're literally just playing Russian roulette. For example, a buddy of mine with a 5080 jumped back on Elden Ring, and that game stutters left, right, and center. For me, Elden Ring runs fine. For most of my friends, Elden Ring runs fine, but you do sometimes play that game of a crapshoot where some games just don't run well, and what I'm saying is that if you have a higher-end PC, that stings a lot more when the crapshoot isn't favoring you, and sometimes people don't want to play troubleshoot simulator, PC troubleshoot simulator to fix a game. I know I certainly did that with Spider-Man 2, and it was infuriating. And I'm a little bit all over the place, but what I'm trying to get at is the value in these GPUs at these higher-end price points, especially when you couple it with the greater options on games that are running on lower-end hardware, and on top of that, a lot of the higher-end games not being the best optimized and running pretty poorly, I think it just makes the value inherently on some of the more expensive GPUs less than ever before. Bad ports aren't a new thing. Assassin's Creed Unity existed. Batman Arkham Knight existed. But my experience in 2025, and maybe I'm a prisoner of the moment, recency bias and all that, and I played through a ton of games on PC. And there were several good ones. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 ran really well. Dynasty Warriors Origins, in my experience, ran really well. Stellar Blade, like I said, ran really well. But for those, you also have Mafia Old Country. You have Wushang Fallen Feathers. You have Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. You have Monster Hunter Wilds. You have Spider-Man 2. It's a lot. And like I said, 50-50, it's a crapshoot, and the value just isn't there when you're buying a high-end GPU, and it's maybe it's gonna run this game well. I don't really know, but I'll spend the $800 for this GPU. Like, to me, that just makes no sense whatsoever. But that'll do it for me. Let me know all of your thoughts in the comment section down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out. Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush here again. Hope you enjoyed the video. As you guys might know, YouTube's notification system is sometimes a little bit wonky, even if you're subscribed to the channel. Maybe you're not abundantly aware that I uploaded a video. To remedy that situation, make sure you hit the bell notification button. This way, whenever I upload a new video, and I try to upload as consistently as possible, you will be notified directly of the upload, and you can watch it as soon as it goes live. I would really appreciate it if you guys hit that button so you can stay up to date with all of the content I'm posting. But as always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.